Glorious day to you, my friends. Nihisaya hachanananiria tanananiaratata. So Spirit said to make this video. I simply asked the I Ching a little bit of advice. I saw a license plate, didn't really understand what it meant. So not that that part isn't exactly important, but what they want to share is the result. This cast hexagram 59, the changing lines, and the transformed hex. And they want me to speak some light language, and they're going to speak through what it means, or what it means to me, or what might it mean to you. They're going to ask some questions. So since I'm a little tongue-tied, I'm just going to start my process. So I invite you to join me as we invite and allow the Holy Fire to flow in, through, and around, in every way, and everywhere, and every when. And to set aside my ego and my personal energy, so that I may be a clear channel for the highest truth for all of us. But what I can do is I can speak in light language the intention or the essence of the license plate that I saw. So for those of you who resonate, Nahasiya arahati nanayaka. Ichahatad hara nahasiya. Achahanahasika awa ohukuchana. Isahatu uruhuya. Anahayatanada. Sahanana ishai. Sohuko ushashawaya. Anahasasiya riana. Isanaruka. Ishahananahasa sisiya konono horohututurushu. Shahiyananayararan. Whenever you're ready, Nihasananara Arakana Asahasisia Katitiri Ananara Huko Choroko. Nariatanana. So I asked my question, and I tossed some coins, and I got the cast hexagram 59, which is the wind over the water. And this interpretation is the wind carries the mists aloft. Sage rulers dedicated their lives to serving a higher power and built temples that still endure. The king approaches his temple. Success, if you stay on course, you may cross to the far shore. So let me to remove the gender out of that. Notice how it's mists. The wind carries the mists aloft, so that the upper hexagram, the trigram, 3 lines, trigram, represents the wind. And there's this wind above the water. So these are either it's water or the earthly waters. Or we can just simply look at, well, what happens when wind blows on the water? Yes. The wind carries the mists aloft, or the mist, but they chose mists here. Wind is an agent of change. And mist is water behaving as air. Because it's not a part of the lake or the pond. And the wind blows across it. So whether it's mist or fog, or if anybody's seen a mountain lake, or a lake in the middle of a forest, and seen it on a dewy morning, there's plenty of mist above the lake, and especially when the lake is of warmer temperature than the air. Sage rulers or righteous rulers, wise individuals, wise rulers of their own reality, dedicate their lives to serving a higher power. And what is this higher power? So we could say God. We can say the Brahman Atman, which is the Hamsa, which is the white swan, which is the highest form of consciousness. Consciousness. Your true, authentic self. Can you see the swan swimming on the pond in the midst? In the mist? I want to see the midst. M-I-D-S-T, the midst. In the middle of. Indeed, this swan is swimming and floating in the middle of the pond, in the midst of the mist. And if we are the wise ruler of our own reality, are we serving our highest good? The source within. And what are we building? What temples are we building that endure? The Three Little Pigs comes to mind. Are you building your house, your temple, your house to God, your house to your source, the house within? Are you building it on a solid foundation? Are you building your house, your temple, out of straw, out of sticks, or out of bricks? And then Spirit chimes in and says, or are you building it out of something that's, more sturdy than bricks? And the king, or the righteous ruler, approaches their own temple, one's heart center, unifying. You're going to hear me talk about unify and unifying a lot over the next coming weeks. As the righteous ruler approaches their own temple, as the righteous ruler unifies with their heart center, with one's own heart center, with their source within, unifies with God, unifies with their higher self, their highest self, unifies with Sahananirya, their highest form of consciousness, their highest good. There's so many ways to say it. Success if you stay on course. Yeah, duh. And you may cross to the far shore. I still don't understand what that means. Because if we're being, there's no crossing, there's no far shore. Everything is here and now. So that far shore is here. And you have crossed it. There's no need to cross it. There's so many things. And I get why they call it Huan. or dissolution, because the mist is being carried away by the wind away from the lake. But that doesn't that doesn't make sense with you're unifying with your heart center. Anyway, so let's go to the situational analysis, because this is really what they want to talk about. Water is life, my friends. You're going to hear me say that a lot over the next coming weeks. So this analysis is that walls meant to protect have instead separated and isolated. Your defenses have kept you apart from those whom you most need to touch. Whatever the reason for discord between you, it is time to lay down your arms. Dispel the inflexible demands and the fears of the mind, so that you may reunite in the heart. Well, continue reading. They're talking though. If you have begrudged, forgive. If you have torn down, repair. If you have injured, heal. If you have judged, pardon. If you have grasped, let go. So let's talk about this dissolution with your righteous badass self and your heart center. Okay? Because we wish to reunite in the heart. So how can we, I'm going to include me in that, how can we reunite in the heart? Have we put inflexible demands on ourselves? Have we, our fears, have we placed fears, but are we allowing fears to keep us separate or away from our heart center? Is there discord in you anywhere? Have we begrudged ourselves? We, they, the universe, encourages us to forgive ourselves. We are our own worst critics. And when our ego is involved, our ego has so many inflexible demands, has so many fears. But the best part is that our ego only lives in the mind. Our ego does not live in our hearts. And our ego does not live in spirit. Anaho, anaha, kananani, anaho, kacha titiara dokwa, kachi hanananiarata. What have we torn down? If we're tearing down our defensive walls, let's not repair those. The universe has our back. For when we focus on defense, the universe simply provides us with things to show us that we're well defended. But if we focus on the benevolence or the joy or what we wish to receive, we no longer get those roadblocks or what we need to defend against. Have we injured ourselves? Heal. Allow the healing. Or when we focus on the joy, perfection happens naturally, and we heal naturally. Healing is just simply a return to our normal, perfect state. That's all healing is. It's unifying with our heart center. It is unifying with perfection, unifying with our source within. If you have judged, pardon. Have we judged ourselves? Yes. We as individuals are both the judger and the judgee. When we're at the pearly gates, Mat, who will weigh our soul against a feather, and if our soul is not weighted down by much, it will be lighter than that feather, and Mat will allow eternal paradise. We are Mat. We are our own judge. Which explains purgatory, which explains hell, those concepts. We only visit the non-paradise while incarnated and in the afterlife. We only visit the non-paradise because we're judging ourselves and we deem ourselves not worthy of that paradise. But the universe and everything in our vortex and all the angels and God do not judge us, only support us and welcome us with open arms into paradise, into our joy, into heaven, however you want to call it. And if you have grasped, let go. There's an image of holding on to a bird too tightly. If we hold that bird too tightly, we crush it and it dies and it can't fly away. Love does not grasp. So let's turn these questions outward as well. Have we begrudged anyone externally? This cast hexagram encourages us to forgive. If we have torn down anything, This cast hexagram encourages us to repair it. If we have injured anyone out there, this cast hexagram encourages us to heal it, heal that injury. And maybe healing that injury is simply viewing that association, that relationship, that injury, that association and or relationship that we have labeled it injured. Maybe we simply focus on our joy and focus on the perfection of that association or that relationship. And healing will happen on its own. It will return to its natural, normal, perfect state. And if we have judged, this cast hexagram encourages us to pardon, show mercy, mercy and strength and mercy. That's the middle part of Kabbalah, the tree of life. The divine feminine aspect of chesed, mercy, loving kindness, and Gebura, the strength to the strength. We can further qualify it, the strength to show that loving kindness, the strength to be in one's heart center, the strength to love oneself, the strength to love outwardly, and then the balance in the center, tiferet, the beauty, the joy, the balance of the strength and the mercy or the loving kindness. I don't think I need to click on that original text here to read, but move along to the hexagram lines, the changing lines, and the red lines, so we have, there are two changing lines. There's an Old Yin for line 3 right here. And this is young. All the black lines are young. And an Old Yang for line 6. So the Yins are the broken lines, and the Yangs are the long lines, and the blacks are the young, and the red or the changing lines are the old. Because that's a part of the cycle of life, is that the old then changes back into the new. And the new or the young then matures into the old. But the old yin prevails. Line 3 prevails. His ego dissolves, and the void is filled with his self. No more fear and frustration. So let's take the male gender out of that. One's ego dissolves, or the master's ego dissolves, or the ascended being's ego dissolves. And that void, the void of the ego, that surrender, is filled with the self, the isness, the true authentic self, the source within. And when the ego dissolves, the source within simply becomes the source or source. We don't need to put the article the in front of it. We don't need to further qualify or clarify what source is. The being, the living. Kanahate achara wawa. Yes, oh no. No more fear. Nirabatanana. Because there is only isness, trueness, self. When there's only self, there is no room for fear. There is no room for frustration. Self is joy. Niha kanata. Shanananiyata. And interesting, they just point out 59, 5 and 9. 5 is the number of the human. 5 is also the number of Hamsa. And 9 is the endings and beginnings. So that's all they were talking about on these changing lines. It's interesting that the 5 is the number of the human, and it's also the number of your ascended self, or the ascended self. And 9, the ending of the humanness. And the renewal of the self, the renewal of spirit, the renewal of your true authentic self. Or the renewal of your vision of your true authentic self. The renewal of your recognition and your being of your true authentic self. That's what they said earlier in today's video about Vishuddha. Not in that way, but and I don't want to click on, we can click on any of these lines. I don't want to click on any of these lines. I mean, that message in and of itself is, and again, 3. It was 3 takes in this morning's video, and the 88 degrees, 31.111 degrees Celsius. I'm still chuckling at the 3 and the 3, third take, and then the 11:11 afterwards. Which is the number of the awakening of the true authentic self, and the recognition of the awakening and the recognition of the true authentic self. That's what the 2 11s are. The first 11 is the awakening, a second is the recognition. Because that's where the power is. The power isn't that you're awakening. That is powerful. That is the master. That's when you're becoming the master. But that second 11, is when you actually realize that the boot against your head is on your own foot, or in the images, it's in your hand. But I did that. You are both the cause and the effect of the law of attraction. You are the karma of the law of attraction. And that's simply what karma is. Karma is it focuses on the action part of it, the reaction part of it. But it is both parts. Normally we see karma as, I sent this thing out to the universe and this is what I got back. I got back karma. But who put it there in the first place? We did. And that second 11, that recognition of the Master and the true authentic self within, that recognition both causes a chuckle and an accounting of oneself. And what they just reminded me of is when somebody first wakes up and they talk about the law of attraction. And notice I'm using this in the third person they. I don't want to include me, but it included me. And it does include me on a daily basis still. That we hear something or we say, I don't want to attract that. I need to fix my speech. I need to do this. I need to do that. Those statements are all filled with judgment. And they're filled with fear. And they're filled with separation. Did you just hear that? Kiniya anahata. It stops the flow. Akinia. It stops the flow. Akinia. To and of. Anahata. The heart center. Sahititikawa rutsona uyoka. Hata aniraya. Hata. Exactly. Hata. Ha. What we send out to the universe. Ta. That. It is. Tat sat. It is. Sat is truth. Tat is that. The ha is reality. So when we're not in our ascended state, we're cognizant of the law of attraction, but we're not fully engaging in it because we're afraid of what it's delivering. And that in and of itself, that fear of what it's delivering is reinforcing that fear. Instead of simply returning to the joy. And then the more that we vibrate in our joy, it reinforces what we're getting back from the universe. All that abundance which is modulated on joy, with joy, and of joy. That's what helps us ascend. And ascension is simply just a return to the cognizance and recognition of the Master within, of our true authentic self, that we send out everything that we get back, what we receive. That every ha is equal to every sa that we receive. The sa is the in-breath, the ha is the out-breath. So not only are they equal and balanced, they are instantaneous. So they want me to move on and go over to the transformed hex. So I'm using ichingonline.net, and you can go there and you can ask whatever question, gather whatever advice you wish, and you can toss the coins virtually In other words, a random number generator in the computer out there or the universe will be generating the broken lines or solid lines, and they'll be generating whether it's red or black, whether it's changing or fixed, old or young, or you can toss 3 coins all by yourself, and there's instructions on how to do that. But I ask you to remember that every divination tool, that every tool that we use for assistance is simply a tool to engage in the universe. We are already perfect. We already have all the answers within. But sometimes we like confirmation, or we like either the one-way ticket back to unification, which this one generated for me. It was a permission slip to myself, from myself, to unify with the heart center again. And I accepted that permission slip from myself. I said, why, yes, I will accept that invitation to my own party. Because it is your own party. So why not invite everybody, including yourself? In this transformed hex. So the cast hexagram gives advice on the question that you asked, or the situation that you posed. As it is, see, I don't want to describe it as too much, because you will get it when you read it, and you'll say, "Oh, that's what it means." And this website, ichingonline.net, also describes what each of the tabs are. And as the cast hexagram changes to the transformed hexagram via the changing lines, which are described in the hexagram lines, once this transition occurs, and for this one, once the ego dissolves and the self is revealed and recognized, and so this begs the question over here. When the ego dissolves, is our ego well, the answer is yes. They're just laughing. The ego is the one that causes the begrudging. The forgiveness of it is the process of recognizing the truth in it. And the ego tears down bridges, pathways to others and the self. And when the ego is not present, the repairs naturally happen. The ego causes the injuries. And when the ego is not present, healing naturally occurs. The ego does all the judging, and pardoning naturally occurs. Yes, we're going to repeat ourselves, yes. And the ego does all the grasping. And the absence of the ego lets go, returns to perfection. And that's interesting how when we talk about the ego, the objectifies it. It makes it not a part of us, which I chuckle at, and it's a part of us. It's a part of us. And the ego simply just means me or I. It's the selfish. It's not the unity. It's not the recognition of the unity that we're all one. The one is the all and the all is the one. That's simply what ego does. This ego is a part of us. It gives us our identity, and it's an idea of separation. That's it. Okay, we'll move on. Otherwise, this will be a 2-hour video. And look at this. The transformed hex is hexagram 48. 4 is the foundation, and 8 is manifestation. The foundation for manifestation. And look at the magic. This line, the changing line, this is a broken line, and the other changing line is a solid line, and it's the top line of the trigram. So we're basically swapping the trigrams. So now we have the water above the mist. So to me, this here represents the heavenly waters. Above the wind. The winds of change do not affect the heavenly waters. The divine flow, the flow of benevolence and joy to you, to our heart centers, and through us, of us, to us, and from us. And these waters, these heavenly waters, above the wind, represent the well, Ching, the I Ching, the well, the Tao, the way, Tao to Ching, Tao to Ching, either way. It's the way of the well, or simply called the way. Deep waters penetrated and drawn to the surface. The superior person refreshes the people with constant encouragement to help one another. Encampments, settlements, walled cities, whole empires may rise and fall, yet the well at the center endures, never drying to dust, never overflowing. It served those before and will serve those afterwards. Again and again you may draw from the well, but if the bucket breaks or the rope is too short, there is misfortune. We won't get any water. But guess what? We can get another rope. We can get another bucket. It's not the issue. This well does not run dry. Water is life. And this is the life of spirit. This is the water of heaven, the water of so there is a source common to us all. Carl Jung named it the collective unconscious. Others hail it as God within. Inside each of us are dreamlike symbols and archetypes, emotions and instincts that we share with every human being, every other human being. We share it with ourselves too. When we feel a lonely separateness, okay. A lonely separateness from others. Quarantine. When we feel a lonely separateness from others, it is not because this well within has dried up, but because we have lost the means to reach its waters. Our bucket broke. Our rope broke. Let's get a new rope. Guess what? Your friends have rope. Reach out. Kahawatotusu. And if you see somebody else who needs a rope, let's share a rope. Let me finish reading and then you get to speak, people. You need to reclaim the tools necessary to penetrate to the depths of your fellows. Then the bonds you build will be as timeless and inexhaustible as the well that nourishes them. Kihisa Arianaha Tukuchar Nasahachichi Shishaya Arawat Kunanuru Sukuchu. Dave reminded me of an Abraham Hicks meditation on relationships. Nisahawaruta Achkawananarias. And Abraham, I'm paraphrasing, I'm remembering, Abraham said through Esther Hicks, Nahasawacha Arakana Sarieris. When you shore up somebody's weakness with your strength, you help them not. And their advice went on to be, if you simply see the perfection in them, if you simply see the attributes that are missing, that are not being presented, then by law they will show up. And sometimes the rope that we hand people is simply us seeing the perfection in them. And then they realize, hey, I got another rope right here. I can draw from the well. All on my own. And when they find their own rope and they make their own bucket and they walk to the well themselves and get their own nourishment from the well, how empowering is that? Let me say that again. Yes, when one finds a rope themselves, or when one makes a rope themselves, and one makes a bucket themselves, and when one returns to the well themselves, the nourishment they receive from that well, kahaya sanara watata, is heavenly, is nourishing, is the sustenance of spirit, and fills the heart, and allows the heart to overflow. And these are the bonds that are as timeless and inexhaustible as the well. When we learn and practice and build the tools to go to our own well, our own source within, meditate. Often. We teach and reinforce ourselves how to go to that well and how to reinforce it and how to get nourishment from it. And that is the Ascended Master. That is the 1111. That's the second 11. Because when we realize that we have the power, and we've had the power all along, to go to the well, and we know how to do it, and we do it. We be it. That's the true power. That's the true essence. That's true being. That's true living. That's authentic living. And now let's delve into some of the details as the epilogue. And so the upper trigram, sun, the wind. So it's can be seen as wind or wood. And the qualities are gentle, penetrating, gradual, honest, simple, subtle, transitory, shifting, elusive. Yeah, that's one way to say it. Whispering. You guys got it. Caressing. Whispering and caressing. That's us whispering to our own soul. In our heart whispering to us. And it's us caressing our own heart. And it's our own heart caressing us. This is indecisive. Well, yeah, I guess if we're talking about shifting and transitory. And the direction is the southeast. Oh, gee, look, I'm in the southeast. And the eldest daughter, in the thigh, in early summer, mid-morning, and that rooster can crow as many times as he wants. And the color is white. The element is air. And miscellaneous, guideline. It's a guideline. Work, long, high, advance, and retreat. Odor, gray-haired. Broad forehead, white of the eye, close to the grain. Threefold return. There we go. There's the three again. Niyata, the threefold return. In the lower trigram, Kan, water. And the image is water or clouds, mist, rain, a spring. Yeah, exactly. Pit or a chasm, I would rather not see those two, but dangerous? Well, I guess. Difficult, profound, anxious, deep, marvelous. Okay, I go with marvelous. Deep is, one thing. Damned, I don't know about that one, but persistent, persevering, flexible, melancholy, pervasive, protean, mobile, fluid, driving, and the direction is the north. The family members, middle son, in the harasatari saakawachurun, the body part is the ear, whispering in the ear, so midwinter, midnight, pig, Nahasanyakawa Ananoruto, and the color is scarlet, and the element is wood. So we got two elements of wood here, and miscellaneous ditches, ambush, bent and straightened, bow, wheel, stick, heart, earache, blood. You can read the rest. A wrecked chariot. A stumbling horse. Really? Because if you have a wrecked chariot, you gotta walk by foot. Moon. Yes. Water is very associated with the moon. Thieves. I guess because it's night. Hardwood and toil. So a little more light language. Ahananhiya yacha anahatakaitiana shahananiyartanarso kanahasananiyarana atatihitarya sananayaro yatakananahara hatitiyarta hanananiyarhanaki ya yatatatitia chananaharkuwa chatatananiyarhanananiyaраткаяна Anati Nasa Iriatata Attakanashoya Sa Ananata Tasa Sa Asha Yayata Attakananadoto Cha Ananiarana Cha Ayata Nanadoku Kaninianana Shayata Tora Hukananoyatanaya. So I thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing in my highest bliss. Thank you for sharing in some breaths. Nihatakaya Tantananara Hasanayarata. I thank you for sharing in this now. Kichiarnara hatakana araheta donoro soko shashashani karawanara soko nananira sasa. From the ascended master within to the ascended master within. Nihisahaya akanatia chaha asanata katiaranata ko aruhusa yayi chachana naharokwa. Namaste, my friends. Nahasaka nahataho, shohoko ayatananaria, shashishini hatatokuchu uruno, isahanana arakatatiria. Hanananiya ratatanana. See you in the next now, my friends. Niyakahana aratatakocha waroto.